I moved to Spain 3 years ago and I didn't move here for the taxes. Look, I was a Tesla store leader earning just over $85,000 a year, and my tax rate, I believe, was 22%. And now I'm a small YouTube creator making less than the minimum wage in my home state of Florida. And what I make now, my tax rate in the States would be 10%. My current tax rate here in Spain is 24%. I pay 14 percentage points more and earn significantly less. The thing is, I feel wealthier and less stressed at 24% than I ever did making 85,000. My 24% here in Spain covers stuff that I would have to pay for individually and struggle to afford in the US, like guaranteed medical care for my whole family and truly affordable access to university for my daughter. I want to show you exactly why that tiny difference, that extra 14%, has made the difference between constant stress and financial peace. Let's talk about three myths that I think keep Americans in the dark. And then let's talk about something that you can do right now to lower costs without even leaving the US if that's where you live. Before we get into the numbers, let's talk about these mental roadblocks, the three myths that stop Americans from questioning their tax burden, or maybe you do question your tax burden. For me, I used to believe in some of them. I hear this phrase so often. If the government pays for it, the service has to be inefficient, slow, low quality. In this myth, it implies that true quality requires competition and individual payment. In reality, the stress of creating a job for yourself vanishes the moment you realize that you can take the time needed to develop the business you wanted to make for years. You get that when you have access to a healthcare system that doesn't require you to have a job with someone else in order to access it. Are there waits? Sure. Care is prioritized based on the condition's severity and its urgency, but your care is guaranteed. In the US, I was paying 22% and I still carried the fear of the cost of a medical emergency. With what I'm earning right now, I'm not even sure I could afford the copay, much less getting insurance. That anxiety is a hidden emotional tax that's all gone now. This one is insidious because it tricks you into focusing only on the number on your paycheck while ignoring the massive non-optional costs that are waiting for you outside of your tax form. When you look at my tax rate from the US compared to now, I paid 2 points less and made tens of thousands more. But in reality, that doesn't account for what could be called a life tax. It's the things you have to pay for every month just to function. These are the social services that you have to pay for as an individual. For example, the US healthcare tax, the 22% rate didn't cover healthcare, and that's another monthly cost, plus copays and deductibles. It's a hidden tax. Those costs are included in my 24%. And when you add up the life taxes, the premium, the savings needed, the stress, and when you add those to the 22% income tax rate, the total percentage of my income dedicated to mandatory survival costs was easily over 40%. I can't imagine what that would be with my current salary. Americans don't pay less tax overall. It's high tax in pieces. And those pieces are structured to keep people constantly stressed and stuck in toxic jobs and insecure and very much poor. The idea that moving to a high tax European country means giving up everything is not accurate in my experience. The argument is that high taxes disincentivizes work and investment, but when you remove massive financial risks like medical debt and college tuition, you open up a kind of an economic freedom that outweighs the tax increase. I feel less stress. Even though the video comment section can sometimes send me overboard, I have more mental capacity to focus on growing my business and creating true prosperity. The peace of mind itself is prosperity all on its own. And let's talk about the numbers. When I was a store leader, my base pay was $85,000. Because I lived in Florida, I didn't pay income tax, which is excellent. However, my compensation included stock bonuses that I often had to cash out, which added significant complexity and a lot of tax liability. My life at 22% was characterized by constant financial planning for external costs, budgeting for healthcare, and preparing for the massive future cost of my daughter's college. I even took a chance at enrolling her in one of those tutoring academies to hedge some of those future university costs, and frankly paying $15,000 so she can get a scholarship to cover tuitions that average $36,000 annually made sense to me. Even though cashing out stock to pay for something like that raised my taxes, it was very much worth it. I refused to let her fall into student loan hell like I did. And today, my financial situation is entirely different. I'm operating as a small business owner here in Spain. And at this point, I'm earning less than minimum wage in Florida. My effective tax rate here is about 25%, and that's 24%, and that's 2 percentage points more than it was at my old salary in the US. But for that extra 2%, my tax contribution automatically includes full guaranteed national health coverage. It also consists of the primary mechanism for my daughter to attend university affordably, which we're going to discuss in a minute. And when I pay my quarterly taxes here, I don't feel a sting of frustration. It's an investment. As this business grows, I intend on hiring youth in my area so they can grow and develop their careers. And I'll pay them fair wages, and my company will pay taxes that support their contribution to these services. Let's do a comparison. Imagine if I took a job in Florida today making minimum wage, $14 an hour. The effective tax rate on that low income would drop to 10%. Sounds great, right? That tiny paycheck taxed at 10% would leave me unable to afford medical insurance just for me. It wouldn't allow me to save enough for a potential medical emergency. It definitely wouldn't help my daughter with her education. In this scenario, my family would be perpetually one illness away from bankruptcy. I could be poorer at 10% with a minimum wage job in the US than I am at 24% with the same wage in Spain. Of course, I would look for a higher paying job, but there aren't jobs right now. The stress of it all would be unbearable. How would I ever be able to develop my business without securing a loan or some other outside support? The reality is, even though I'm taxed at a higher rate here, my well-being is dramatically cheaper. This video isn't really about taxes, it's about the system. The system I'm a part of right now gives me peace. My daughter, she received a full scholarship to public universities throughout Florida. It sounds great, but there's more to consider. Even with a full scholarship, the cost of living, rent, food, transportation, it's astronomical. If she were to stay in the US, we would still have the constant fear of a medical emergency wiping out any savings that we put aside. Here in Spain, she has direct access to high quality university programs, and the cost structure is very manageable. The tax money that I pay ensures the door is open. It's like an insurance policy for my daughter's future and for her health. The emotional tax of not worrying about her college or her health care is worth far more than 2% or even 14%. Frankly, my quality of life is significantly higher. I stop getting frustrated every 3 months when I have to pay my tax bill here, and that's because I see where the money is going, and I trust that it's being used to ensure my family's foundational security. I feel less stress overall because I'm no longer budgeting for worst case scenarios because it's covered. The US system offers a lower rate on paper, but it's really designed to maximize corporate profits, the corporations that use more of your tax dollars than you do. If I were still in the US working on a business just like I'm doing now, there is one thing I'd have done to minimize some of my costs. But first, I have to introduce myself. If you're new here, hi, I'm Kina. I talk about hard things with a soft voice. Thank you to everyone who supported what I do with a coffee or super thanks, a like, or a share. You are a part of this journey that I'm on. This channel is why I can focus on my business. A while ago, I chose to share products and services that I use and I trust so that I could avoid paywalling my content. A product that I use every day and I trust is Proton. Proton Pass, it actually gives me everything that I need to protect my privacy all in one plan. And the VPN, it lets me explore the internet in total privacy. Proton Mail, it lets me send end-to-end encrypted emails with no ads or trackers in my inbox. And Proton Drive, it prevents my photos from being used to train AI. And Proton Pass, it helps me hide my email addresses and eliminate spam. Using the link in my description will get you 50% off of Proton Pass's annual plan. If I were in the US right now working on a business as I'm doing right now here in Spain, this is what I'd do. Since I wouldn't be able to change the tax rate on my own, I would lower the cost of things that my taxes should be paying for. You may think that I'd go out and get a job. The thing is, I spent many years angry with myself for the fact that I'd put so much energy into my job. And if only I'd put half of that energy into building something of my own, I'd have something phenomenal. The highest, most tangible cost that burdens Americans right now is healthcare. So I'd look into an alternative that disrupts the traditional expensive medical insurance model. Recently, I heard about direct pharmacy care. I'd look for services like this to see if that model makes sense for my situation. This one is a model where you can pay a low flat monthly fee directly to the doctor, and the fee covers most primary care needs. It covers appointments and simple procedures without involving insurance or copays or deductibles. By taking control of primary medical needs outside of the insurance bubble, you're immediately lowering some of the financial burden and the stress that your taxes should ideally be alleviating. Another thing that I would have done is encourage my daughter not to take advanced placement classes and instead take that effort and focus on college courses during dual enrollment. She did both during high school. She took AP classes and she did dual enrollment. She even scored well on all of her AP exams, which counts towards some college classes. The thing is, taking college courses through dual enrollment can have a significant savings all on its own. Taking AP classes and passing doesn't guarantee college credits. Doing well on the AP test is what actually matters, and all it could take is one upset stomach on the day of that exam and it could derail everything. Ultimately, this whole journey has shown me that the percentage doesn't define the tax cost. Instead, it represents the level of exposure it leaves you with. The 24% I pay is cheap versus the 10% I'd pay living in the US. Tell me in the comments, what is the single most considerable burden that your current tax rate doesn't cover that you think it should? I can't be the only one out here who thinks the government should use taxes to make everyone's lives richer, not just the wealthy. I thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next video.